we've got an exciting podcast today. We got Matt Vincent on here. Matt Vincent is an entrepreneur, a coach. He's an athlete. Uh, and the cool thing about Matt is he has a very different take on life than what I think we're about and what our listeners are kind of thinking of. So I'm really excited for him to share that and kind of talk through his mindset as well as legacy. I met Matt through Matt Bedreau, actually, who we had on, a couple weeks ago. And it was just a really cool conversation that you had, while Matt was interviewing you. So uh, Matt Vincent, everybody.
Welcome, man. Thank you for having me.
Definitely.
Yeah, I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah. Well, Matt,
Um,
who are you? Who is Matt Vincent?
at this point, Matt Vincent's a lot of things, man. It's me, right? And for me, who I am is someone that wants to chase my dreams the rest of my life. And those dreams continue to change and alter as chapters grow, right? Like I don't have the same dreams that I did when I was 25, and I don't think I'm supposed to. I'm 40.
Right.
I also don't plan to have the same dreams I will at 50. But I know that I can continue to set myself up for success in the future by using the same plans that have built success in every other chapter of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to transition from chapter to chapter and move on to the next challenge that life provides you as opportunity is really what my focus is on life. Knowing who I am and what makes me happy and what I'm chasing and making damn sure that I'm not chasing it to fill somebody else's idea of success.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've really become focused on transformation and really overall high performance as a human. Um, I spent a long time as an athlete competing in the Scottish Highland Games. I won a couple world championships and then had an ego bad on me. And through 9 knee surgeries and total knee replacement, had a lot of loss of identity and realization of the things that I was really focused on are really temporary. And that's part of what makes them special.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to embrace and fully love the years that I've had for what they've given me, but not let those dictate the decisions I'm going to make for the rest of my life has been kind of the biggest focus. Helping people do the same and helping people transition from chapter to chapter in their life and not carry any of the bullshit that they've had attached to them
Mm-hmm.
moving forward that they don't need to.
That's struggling with identity. I feel like is something that almost every male goes through, unless they drink it away, right? Or they intoxicate themselves to put that away.
Yeah, I
How,
mean, people use distractions for any number of things.
yeah, yeah. How old were you when you went through that?
It's happened a few times, right? Like, I mean, I think about little versions of it growing up where you get like this little sample of it. For one, man, I got a Jeep when I was in high school, right? Like I had
Yeah,
this fucking Jeep I got and I loved that vehicle and I drove it through most of college. While doing track and field at LSU, I've got my Jeep and man, I'm very proud of that character, right? Like I'm on a track team, I've got a cool Jeep and driving around. And I remember when it was time for to sell it because it was a piece of shit. Um, I remember this feeling of like, fuck, well, I don't have a Jeep anymore. Like I felt like this big downgrade to my identity as if
yeah.
that vehicle was kind of part of who I was and people expected to see me in it.
Mm-hmm.
And once I sold it, I quickly realized and remembered, oh yeah, no one gives a shit.
Exactly.
No one cares.
Yeah.
So, that identity was kind of one I remember early on. That's such a minor thing. And I mean, hell, we do that with long term relationships, right? That we build up this idea of defending something that we've invested a bunch of time into simply because we've invested time into it, not because it serves us anymore.
Right.
So being able to move past that is another way of shedding identity. Whenever I started entrepreneurship for the first time after college with a bike shop, and I was really proud to call myself an entrepreneur. I
Oh,
just
that's
didn't have
cool.
any concept of what the work cost.
So you owned a bike shop? That was your
Yep.
first endeavor?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
my first endeavor as a brick and mortar bicycle shop. Uh,
that's cool.
yeah, and it didn't go great. But we learned a lot, right? And then I ended up going back to a corporate job for 10 years and putting 10 years into a career in the oil and gas industry.
Hmm.
And then it was
You
time
in the
to,
oil and gas industry?
yeah, switching from that identity back to, well, what's the next thing I want to do? Do I have to have this job? Do I have to continue down this path? Do I have to do anything? And I don't have to do shit. And so being able to recalibrate each chapter, after then, competing ended, man, I got to become a world champion in my sport. And then it was gone pretty quickly after that.
Yeah.
And feeling that identity to what if I can't throw anymore? How does that continue to help my business? I mean, all of these were the ways that I drove eyes and attention for my brand. Not dead yet. This is how I drove ideas for the podcast. And I was really scared that if I'm throwing, then what value do I bring? And what I forget, what I bring is the information that it takes to become the best in the world at a thing.
Hmm.
And that's not gone because I can't throw.
Right. You still have the formula.
Managing those deaths and those little identities and big identities, some of them, but realizing that they don't have to go forward with me, right? That who I am in my 30s doesn't need to be who I am in my 40s, and it probably shouldn't be, and it damn sure shouldn't be who I am in my 50s.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of done predicting like what I think the next 10 years of my life look like, and I want to follow living by the intention that sets that guy up with the most options as possible.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. I think something you touched on was defining success for you. And I think that's something that, especially right now with social media, you see people out there preaching on success and how to get successful and how to live life the right way. And, business coaches, sales coaches, all these things, right? And there's a lot of noise out there. And I think, one thing I took when I was trying to figure myself out as a man is looking at the man as a full picture. Like for me, what success is being successful husband, a good husband, being a
Yeah,
good
but
father.
you're using the word to describe it.
Right.
So you can't use successful to define success. So how would you
Exactly.
define successful?
Yeah. So how did you figure that out, and just kind of elaborate on that more?
So like I think we can look at success in a lot of different ways, whether that's materialistic bullshit or goals we want to reach or whatever
Mhm.
it is. But how do you boil it down to like the essence of it so that you're always in it, right?
Mhm.
So for me, right, success has jack shit to do with my bank account.
Yeah.
I don't care. What I care about is freedom. And different than most people, I want the freedom to do whatever the fuck I want to every day.
Hmm.
I like building a business. I like it because I like the challenge of it. I
Yeah.
like how hard it is to continually figure out and adapt to new things. I like what it teaches me and it learns. And I also like the accountability it brings me that, it's all on me. These are my dreams I'm building. They're not anyone else's.
Right.
These aren't going to be important to anyone else. And so success for me, man, is of the 1,132 weeks I got left to live, I damn sure want to spend them doing things I love.
Yeah.
Damn sure not going to spend them trying to build someone else's dreams and placate my life to someone else's ideas of what success look like.
Hmm.
I'm only accountable to me at the end of this thing. I mean, all the roads lead to the same place, right? Like there's no risk in this life for trying whatever you want. I'm going to be dead at the end of the journey.
Hmm.
And so success, like I said, is spending as much of the remainder of the time of my life chasing things I love.
Yeah. Do you think about what you're leaving behind
No,
in that journey?
not a bit.
Hmm.
I
How do
mean,
you
if
detach from that?
anything, impact. Like that's it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I find all of that really narcissistic.
Hmm.
Um,
That's a good viewpoint on it.
to give you an example, right? Like when I was competing and I remember being at world championships and it coming down to like a last throw, right? Like this is something I've got 20 years of really experience getting me to that moment from
Yeah.
throwing in middle school all the way there. And so to deal with like competition anxiety, one of the ways that I would kind of mentally work my way through like that moment of when it's time to throw and being able to perform was I would remember the really important thing was that none of this fucking matters. For the 3 billion years that Earth has been cruising around and the 14 and a half alleged billion years that the universe has been here, which may be 28 billion, by the way, we may have just doubled that number.
Yeah.
We almost casually doubled forever.
Hmm.
Right? We consider 14 and a half billion years forever as the Big Bang, and we just casually doubled it to 28 billion years. We don't know shit. And so,
It's true.
how far I throw a rock today is not exactly going to make the important list of shit that happened on Earth. So, the narcissism of legacy
Hmm.
That Matt Vincent story here is going to matter because it won't. The dinosaurs were here for 250 million years. We've been here for less than 3.
Hmm.
We don't make the news yet of things that have happened on this planet, much less the universe.
Yeah.
So, legacy for me has to be really important on some weird short term frame for people.
Hmm.
I'm also not that interested in I don't want kids, and so not having kids. So I don't have any concerns about what job I build for my next generation, as
Sure.
even if I did, I would prefer them to chase whatever the fuck it is they want to do.
Hmm.
The legacy of being a good person, sure, right? But how many generations before that fades? What are we
Right.
really talking about? 50
Yeah.
years is what most people consider forever. I don't.
Mm.
I look at forever for as all the time that I won't exist after the next 40 years are up.
Mm.
That's forever.
Yeah.
So I'm going to spend my nickels while I'm here, damn sure as best I can.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how familiar you are with the Bible, but in Ecclesiastes, it talks about us being a vapor, right? And chasing after the wind. Excuse me. And how at the end of the day, as you said, none of it matters because we are that big. I mean, on a billion year scale or million year scale, whatever it is. Because you're right, we don't know jack shit. Like we're trying to figure it out, and we keep trying to figure it out, but we don't know jack shit.
We don't know anything.
Hmm.
And the way knowing shit works, and it's a real problem for most people, right?
Hmm.
It's like consider knowledge and like how you're in your late 20s and you kind of have that first feeling of like, oh shit, I got this life thing figured out. I kind of got an idea of what's
And
going
then it
on.
all blows up at 30.
It's essentially like by that point you've kind of entered this big room and you
Hmm.
know all the people in the room and you know what the room looks like and you're very familiar with it and things are great in there and you feel very comfortable and confident and all this. And at some point while wandering around that room in your mid 20s that you feel very confident about, you open a door that you haven't seen in the room. And
Hmm.
you realize that room is connected to an infinite number of bigger rooms that you don't know shit about.
Yeah.
And you choose to shut that door and stay in the room you're in, or you go forward and accept the fact that you don't know shit. And also, none of the people in that room do.
Hmm. That I think that is something I see in the world a lot, especially around where we live. I mean, we live in, Carmel, Westfield, Indiana. It's a very nice place to live. It's one of the top rated places in the country to live. And people get very comfortable here and
Yeah,
very
of
complacent.
course.
And it doesn't mean that they're not financially successful, but I can't tell you how many people I've met that make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and are completely ignorant. They don't have a concept of what else is out there. And all they
Yeah,
know is,
and look,
yeah.
I care about if people are happy.
Hmm.
If someone is living their life and doing their thing and they're not on the gas and as much of a lunatic as I am and they're happy,
Sure.
right on.
But do you think complacency is something that's okay?
No, not for me.
Hmm.
But I'm not here to tell anyone else.
Sure.
Oh man, I am not interested to convince other people to chase their dreams.
Hmm.
I want to talk to people who are already excited about chasing their dreams. I'm not
Yeah.
here to sell you on why life is amazing, why the opportunity to be here is incredible.
Hmm.
If you don't see the gift, I don't know that I can help you. But for me, I want to spend time with people. Look, if you are home and doing nothing and sitting on the couch and watching TV and being fucking fat, and you don't ever have a thought that pops across your head that says like, "Oh, this sucks," right on. Because man, I fucking wish I could do that, but I
Hmm.
can't. So
Yeah.
I play by my rules. I know what makes me happy, and that's my job to figure out. That's my job
Mhm.
to be responsible for, not anyone else's.
Yeah.
So complacency for me is really dangerous. I also think complacency keeps us from growing. I think complacency kills a lot of that momentum. It kills a lot of that drive. And I think it does keep us safe, right? It keeps us in this place of safeness where it becomes scarier and scarier to try something outside of the realm of normal.
Yeah. Hmm.
But
How do you compare?
right or wrong is where I get tricky on telling people what to do because I don't really inherently believe anything is right or wrong.
Hmm. That's interesting. How do you compare complacency and contentment?
So contentment, right? Like I would define contentment for myself as like I can be happy with how things are.
Yeah.
Contentment means like how do I feel right now? Do I feel right now that I am living my dreams, or do I feel that I am in lack and I'm in some scarcity loop of
Hmm.
one day once I get here, I'll feel this.
Yeah.
And living that way is shit. But being content to say like holy shit, I am living my dreams, then that's the reason to keep applying the pressure, and that's the reason to keep going forward, is to continue living my dreams,
Hmm.
because it takes that to continue to grow. As soon as we're not pushing ourselves forward, especially with the gym or training or anything like that, right? Like we atrophy.
Yeah.
It takes stress to adapt, it takes stress to grow. And realizing that for me is what keeps me on the progress of finding ways to grow all the time. Because
Mm.
there's always a new stress to adapt to. And how lucky I am as a human for the first time in probably 160,000 years that Homo sapiens have been around, that I'm in such a small elite group of humans that I get to choose what I'm interested in
That is
first.
true.
That I
Yeah.
just get, you know how crazy it is that I get to sit here and talk in a fucking studio to people
Hmm. To
because I
gift
wanted
themselves.
to,
Yeah.
right? Like most of the jobs that I know people I deal with have, these jobs didn't exist when we all went to college.
Hmm.
You know, so what opportunities are going to come in the future? Who knows? But I
Yeah.
know I'll damn sure be prepared for them.
Pretty exciting. What was your childhood like? How'd you grow up?
This is really good, man. Both parents were great. Born Sulphur, Louisiana, small town. Um, Played sports. Grew up playing sports. You know what I thought was a really normal childhood, but it's a really normal childhood for Sulphur. And
Hmm.
even when I look at it at that, going back, like it is and it isn't. I mean, I had two parents that never got divorced. I had two parents that loved me a ton and supported pursuits of athletics. I also had parents that held a standard, and I had expectations to hit as far as grades or any of these other type of things.
Mm.
I have an older brother who is an incredible influence on me. My brother Andy's awesome. He's 5 years older than I am and was a valedictorian and all-American football player, and then played in the NFL a few years, and
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, has gone on to be awesome. And I got
Hmm.
this really great roadmap of an older brother to follow, that that's what success looked like. And lucky enough for me, I had some athletic ability that helped it.
Hmm.
You know, I don't know how I get out of childhood, man, if I'm not as lucky as I am with athletics,
Yeah.
because the school thing wasn't my gift. I just didn't give a shit.
Hmm.
But growing up in that environment was great. I mean, other than, you know, the older I get, the more and more I have to unwire a lot of the environmental ideas that came in with growing up in that environment of what success looks like and what happiness looks like and what life should look like, right? Like all the societal ideas that, well, you get married, you have kids, you get the house, and you go to vacation to the kind of the same place every year. Like that's kind of everyone's move.
Right.
And realizing, one, that not wanting the same thing everyone else wants isn't a problem,
Hmm.
but also later on understanding that because other people want something I don't want doesn't make what they want wrong. That's for them to choose. So there was a lot to unwire, right? Like around religion, around um, shit, man, growing up in the South with race, just a lot of things that have taken unwiring of a different life. But overall, man, I don't have any complaints. I can't think of any bigger foot forward I've gotten as an opportunity in life than being born in 1983 to two parents that love me.
Yeah. It's a
You know,
big step up
plus
for a lot of people.
that in my body operating the way it has for 40 years, that it's been this big, you know, I can also look at it now and realize how lucky I am that I got this machine that's athletic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where all my self-confidence came. That's where all the ability to work, the ability to see long-term progress, the understanding that delayed gratification works. It's the one that understood discipline and consistency all came from athletics. And
Hmm.
without that back, you know, without that part of my, you know, that part of my development that understands that's how we make progress, that we can get better at things and it takes a long time. And I, you know, I don't know where I am.
Yeah.
And so the luckiness of between of my parents and plus being athletic and then being able to have whatever it takes to pursue that. So
Hmm.
lucky on a lot of instances.
What do you think gave you the tenacity that you have to keep pushing ahead?
Yeah, I want to be great. I've never been interested in fitting
Hmm.
in. If we're in a lineup of people and they're going to decide who's best and worst at whatever we're doing, I'm not interested in being in the middle.
Yeah.
I give a shit. If there's an opportunity to perform and there's an opportunity to come out and see what I'm made of in any situation,
Hmm.
I want to perform well.
Yeah. I think that's something that I've noticed as a trend across a lot of people that I've interviewed on podcasts, right? I feel like to kind of go the entrepreneur route, podcast route, whatever kind of is in that realm, I feel like a lot of people have a similar mindset of exactly that. I don't want to fit in. I want to be great. I want to live life the way I want to live life.
Well, I mean, I look at what I think average people are into.
Hmm.
If I look at the bell curve of what average people discuss, what average people's thoughts are about politics, average people's thoughts are about religion, average people's thoughts are about the magic and the universe and their power of thought. And yeah, I'm not interested in fitting into that bell curve. And so that means I got to go find people.
Right.
They're not obligated to find me.
Hmm.
I've traveled the world and I've traveled the country pretty in depth to find mentors and find coaches and be around them in person and see how they operate.
That's cool. Who would you say are the number one or two people that have influenced your life in, in the last 10, 20 years? Or just really just in general? I'd be curious to hear who those people are just across life that stand out to you the most.
Kelly Starrett is probably one of my biggest mentors, best friends. Kelly wrote a book, Becoming a Supple Leopard, and we
Yeah.
became 8 or 9 years ago. And I've got to spend some incredible time with Kelly. We've been to Africa. We've whitewater rafted the Grand Canyon for 2 weeks and done some mountain biking adventures.
Yeah. That's
He's an
awesome.
incredible guy that I love so much of the way he operates that I want to embody a lot of it.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, that's how I look at mentors. I look at people that have created universes, and I don't want to live in theirs, but I want the blueprints to figure out how to create my own.
Right.
Kelly Starrett was a monumental mentor for me. I mean, outside of coaches and things like that I had growing up, in more modern times, I would say Rob Bailey has been a really close friend and great mentor, and is someone who's a universe builder.
That's
Man, I
cool.
get to see a very different approach to it than Kelly does it.
Hmm.
And then the other side of that too goes to like Aubrey Marcus, becoming friends with Aubrey for,
Is he
for the
on it?
last,
Did he create on it?
yes.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. So he started on it in Alpha Brain and now runs this really incredible coaching group, Fit for Service.
Oh, cool.
And I've been part of some of the things they've done. And man, that vibe aligns with me a lot.
Yeah.
And getting around Aubrey was one of those people that didn't play by any of society's rules as far
Hmm.
as the way that he governed his life. And I got to see that it worked.
Yeah.
I got to see such an extreme thing meeting him that it blew the doors off a lot of my ideas of what we're capable of doing.
Hmm.
I mean, as much as I would say prior to getting to know Aubrey and like that group of people, um, my thoughts on love, my thoughts on a lot of things still operated out of scarcity,
Hmm.
and realizing that none of those things are scarce and they don't have to be has been really cool.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
Love and scarcity.
I think a lot of people are afraid that they're going to lose love by a thing they do, right? That like we'll fail at this and the people that love me won't anymore and I'll be exposed. Or
Hmm.
jealousy within a relationship, right? That like I have to keep this thing under this glass cage, otherwise someone else will take it.
Hmm.
That if this is taken from me, I'll be a failure.
Yeah.
The truth is, like, man, the love that I've got for my partner and my wife, right? For Bonnie, mean, what if the 10 people that I surrounded myself most with made me feel the way she does?
Mhm.
And I remember Aubrey talking and I, and at the time he's talking about open relationships. And there was a lot that I was learning, seeing that happen, that I thought was really fascinating.
Interesting.
Outside of the clickbaity ideas of whatever open relationships look
Yeah.
like. And it was really interesting to see that, like, oh man, this is a group of people that really do care about each other, and they really do support each other's progress, and they are really there for each other. And
Mm.
they had a community. And so there wasn't any jealousy, and there wasn't any bullshit, and there wasn't any extra drama attached.
Interesting.
That threw me for a loop for quite a while, man. Like, I mean, the number one example I have was this moment running into Aubrey while we were in California. And he's staying at a house not far from where I was, and so we were hanging out, and one of the girls there with him, Caitlin, I figure out is someone I knew through a couple emails, and I kind of put pieces together as we're all hanging out and having conversation, right? Beautiful, beautiful woman. Works with Fit for Service still. And through the course of that relationship, I realized that, like, Aubrey and Caitlin used to be engaged. And so, like, when
Oh wow.
Aubrey started on it, Caitlin was ride or die. Like, that's Aubrey's chick. And over time,
Mhm.
it didn't work out. And at that point, Aubrey was doing open relationship stuff. And the idea that Aubrey was staying in an Airbnb with his ex fiance, who's currently best friends with his current fiance, and no one has any weirdness about this.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that's neat.
Mm.
That, like, that extra friction doesn't have to come with spending time with someone you care about. And I
Interesting.
mean, really, that alone gave me a lot of power and permission to look at my relationship with my wife at the time. And then, ultimately, when it came to my divorce, I realized that we could still be friends.
Mm.
That didn't have to be some burnt resource that I never talked to again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, those were wildly influential people in my life. Keaton Hoskins has been one of recent years.
Oh, oh gosh, Diesel Brothers guy,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Keaton's been an incredible person to know, and that guy operates different than anyone I've ever fucking met.
That's cool.
Mm,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
it was funny. I actually reached out to him about coming on the podcast, and he hit me back right away. So hopefully at some point I'll get to have him on as well.
Yeah. He's a great guy, man.
Yeah, it's funny because it's funny you mentioned some of those guys because I've not had personal connection with Rob Bailey or anything like that, but I have followed him for probably 5 years, 6 years, maybe longer. And he's been a huge influence in we have some different views on life and on the world.
Yeah. Same.
A lot of us have, right? But I've looked at what he's created and I go, man, there's a lot I can take from that. But it's also that's his universe, like you said. That's
Yep.
his blueprint. But I can take the blueprints and go, I'm gonna make this mine now. I feel like that's what the most successful people do is they steal from others, make it their own, right?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Everything's been done, man.
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned those guys because they're Aubrey Marcus. I haven't followed as closely, but Keaton I followed for a few years, and Rob Bailey has been somebody that I've followed for many years, and I have a draw to Montana myself, like none other. So I've been trying to figure out for years how to how to move out that way one day, but no, so how did you how did you find those people? How did you seek them out? Because I think a lot of people get stuck in a world where they're like, nobody here is somebody I want to emulate or I want to look to for mentorship, guidance, whatever it is. How do you go seek that out and find those people?
So prior to, say, meeting those people, right? Like, it kind of started earlier. Um, when I had first gotten into strongman and powerlifting, I mean, we're talking about like 2008, and kind of the way fitness influencers worked at that point,
Yeah.
right? Was like there were a handful of people who had well read, like, training blogs. And so I'm doing powerlifting at that point, and I'm following Jim Wendler. And I like Jim's style. I like his edge. I dig everything about Jim. And Jim's also one of the guys who's been a mentor, man. I don't know where I'd be without the friendship I had with that guy. But
He has
I
great
sought
program.
him out. I knew that he was training at Elite FTS at the time, and I knew that he was around London. And so I scheduled a work trip that I would be in London for a week. And I drove 3 or 4 hours to work meetings every day and came back so that I could train at Elite during the
Oh,
evenings.
cool. Yeah.
And I just went up there and trained for a week quietly by myself and ran into Jim and trained with Jim. And we hit it off running prowler sprints one afternoon.
Oh,
And
cool.
have been homies since.
Mm-hmm.
He's who motivated me to write the first book I wrote on training for the Highland Games, which kind of sparked all this. And so I I drove to those people, man. I sought them out and I just showed up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hard to meet any of these people. I
Yeah.
don't really believe it's that hard to meet any of these people. The trick is being someone they're interested to talk to a second time.
Mm-hmm.
And that involves with you needing to be fucking interesting.
Yeah.
Having something to actually bring to the table instead of just showing up with your hands out to fucking vampire off of these people and whatever their ideas are.
Yeah. Well, and they can sense that. They
Yeah,
can
of
sense
course.
when you're there to take their thunder, you know?
Well, you know when you meet a peer and you know when you meet a fan.
Yeah.
And it's not the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm. That's a good way of putting it. You know,
And I
when
don't mean to shit on one or the other.
yeah.
That's not what it is, right? But like I've been lucky enough over the last couple of years to become homies with like Andy Frisella here in St. Louis, and Andy's a great guy, but I'm not a fucking peer to Andy. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't have a ton to offer there. There's a couple subjects that we can be friends and chat on and things like that that are interesting. But overall, like the stuff he's dealing with is a light year ahead of what I have going on.
Hmm.
You know, and it's not a comparison. It's just he's got different problems to solve than I've got to solve, and
Yeah.
also wants to solve different problems than I want to solve. I don't look at Andy's life as something that I really want.
Hmm.
Um, but
I
I'm
think
glad
that's
that
important to
I've been able to build that universe that he has because it's fucking awesome and it's
yeah.
created a ton of change and impact on thousands of people's lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's something to take into account too. You know, you look at some of these incredibly wealthy dudes that have incredible success, and there's a lot of sacrifice that it takes to get there. You know,
Yeah.
you're not necessarily going to be well-rounded to be at that level.
Well,
And
no, that's
so,
like a PhD, right?
right.
Like that's me, and my only PhD is in throwing. Right. That's my only
Yeah,
real area of expertise is in throwing. And then I can probably, back engineer that to making progress on anything.
right. Hmm. That's cool. So tell me about your businesses and what led to the motivation to start those. Obviously, it started kind of all started with a bike shop, which I think is just super cool because that's something that I wanted back in the day. You know, there was a shop called the Bike Wave
Mm-hmm.
down in Greenbrier, just north of where I lived, and I'd ride my bike there and I'd look at the bikes. I remember having a Haro BMX bike. You know, I don't even know if Haro's made anymore.
I don't either.
Yeah, had a I ended up, finding a shop in West Virginia when I was down there and bought a Specialized P2. And I had
Hell
that
yeah.
bike. I still have that bike. I ended up passing it down to my son. It's just a beefed up dirt jumping bike. It's
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah. I know
20
exactly what
years
you're
old now. A great bike. And finally bought myself a new Giant Trance last year
talking. Oh,
or
nice.
a couple of years ago. It's well, it was funny because it was like 2 years old but new to me. Found it on Facebook Marketplace. Incredible deal. I
Right.
was yeah, sold. Um, so I haven't ridden my P2 as much since, but now my son gets to ride it, and that's cool to see,
Hell
and
yeah.
he's so proud of that thing. But so from going from the bike shop, what led to the motivation to start these new companies that you have, or newish? I guess they're not that new at this point, but
So, I mean, like while I'm throwing, right, like the Highland Games scene is such a kind of weird loophole of athletics where,
mhm,
we're paid to compete at the pro level. And so, festivals or anything else have us out as entertainment, right? And then there's prize money based on how well you throw. Um, and so during those years at my best, like probably 2011 through 2016,
yeah,
um, I'm competing a ton and I'm making a little bit of extra money every year, right? Like
mhm.
maybe 25 grand. And I'm the best in the world at the goddamn thing. Like, so this is the most money you can squeeze out of it. Um,
Gotta love that sport for that.
but at that point, right, like there's no social media. So like I was doing a little bit of YouTube stuff starting back 2008, 2009 to share throwing information with other guys I was competing with,
Yeah.
because we don't know anyone else doing this and there's not enough information on how to get better at it. So we're all comparing notes. And
Hmm.
through some point of that, I started talking to the camera and uploading it.
Hmm.
And as people listened, and I ended up writing that book that Jim mentioned. And the real purpose for writing that first book, Throwing Lab, was I like this extra money coming in. I know the Highland Games are going to end one day, and it would be cool if this money didn't just fade off
Yeah.
immediately when I stopped throwing.
Hmm.
And so I was like, cool, these books will kind of, they'll feather it out.
Yeah.
And well, it ended up making more money selling books than I was throwing. Then it made, and then I got asked to make apparel. And so we started the brand and
Oh, that's
did
cool.
that for 10 years.
When did you start? When did you start Not Dead Yet?
2014.
Okay.
And started then and just ran with it ever since, trying to figure out how to make it work.
Hmm.
Um, so that led into that entrepreneurship. And then at some point, my real job in 2017 decided to let me go, which makes sense.
Hmm.
Um,
What'd you do? What'd you do in corporate America?
I was doing outside sales for a construction company in the oil and gas industry. So I was selling refractory service to refineries.
Okay.
Um, great job. Uh, Great job. Really easy
Hmm.
as far as outside sales go. I don't struggle with that type of a thing. Cold calling doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
The idea of being hung up on, I just don't give a shit. Um, but when that ended, I just full force decided to go into this thing that was working.
Yeah.
So that's what led me to build the brand. And then over the next couple years, life got weird. I got injured, and that became the end of the Highland Games. And then I had to kind of figure my life out and what I really wanted, and this loss of identity, and got a divorce, um, all while keeping the brand alive. Is basically, I don't know what else to do. Like, at least I've got an outlet. Um, Moved to St. Louis, and I ended up building a place here. My facility here, Dope, which is
Hmm.
headquarters, right? Like we built it for the idea of I need a place to film content so that I'm not in the way.
Yeah.
I hate being in the way in someone else's space. I want to make content when I want to make content. I don't want to build my life around this. I want to show up and get work done so that I can go do things I want to do. Be
Hmm.
efficient and be able to churn out as much of it as we can, because that's the game we're
Yeah.
in. And then we started opening the doors to the gym here, which really wasn't ever the plan. I never planned to let anyone else in it. It's just for me
No, it's,
and my team and Bonnie. And as we've opened the doors, that community built, and then man, we've had 4 or 5 people now move to St. Louis
hmm.
due to our community. And so, as the universe is providing opportunity to me, I answer. All
Yeah.
right, cool. So there seems to be something that people want here in a community. How do I amplify that? How do I make that more official? And how do I serve better to those people?
Yeah.
And so that's what's led to the mentorship and coaching, which will lead to continued writing, which will lead to more public speaking, which will lead to better groups and retreats and hosting experiences.
Hmm. Did
So it's
you?
all just kind of naturally progressed.
Yeah. Hmm. So you had the apparel brand, or well, the book first,
Hmm.
which kind of led to the apparel brand, and then the apparel brand has now led to coaching.
Hmm.
Where have you figured out the business model for these, or where did you how, I guess, how did you figure that out? That
Well,
how to market the clothing, and then how to start coaching, and how to market
well,
that.
marketing the clothing, right? Like there's tons of apparel brands to take note from.
Hmm.
And it's just a matter of how you want to build your business. And what worked for us was we release lots of new stuff, and we
Yeah.
don't carry a lot of stock, so we do more of a scarcity built business model where get the design now or it's going to be gone.
Oh, kind of a limited release
Yeah.
ordeal. Oh, cool.
And that's worked well. That also allows me to keep scratching an itch of the creativity side that I want. Like I want to make shit.
Yeah. Do you
I
create
have
all the
more
logos and
ideas.
everything?
Um, to an extent.
Okay.
Like I've got some graphic design capability. I have enough graphic design capability. I have enough video editing knowledge now from doing YouTube for long enough. I have enough. I know how a book should be laid out. I know how stories are told, X, Y, and Z, right? Like I know enough to be able to translate my ideas really good to people who are great at it.
Yeah.
And without that shared vocabulary and shared base of knowledge, there becomes a really big disconnect between who you're trying to communicate with, right? So as a graphic artist, there becomes like little nuanced things with, kerning and making sure scale or type treatments are where you want them to be, and then changing this or distressing or how you want to print it in various forms. What ink do we want to use?
Yeah.
So having those aspects in my in my toolbox, those tools in my toolbox allows me to give my designers a better chance of hitting the target I want to hit.
Mm.
So getting a chance to like translate that and work with a team takes a long time.
Yeah.
Because they're not me.
Mm-hmm.
And also I don't have the full ability to do it all the way.
Right. Well, and I think that's kind of the cool thing about a position like ours. When we figure out kind of what business we create the vision, and then we bring the people in who are really good at executing that vision.
Mm-hmm.
I've got multiple people in my life like that. My wife is like that with my family. I have the vision for my family. I lead my family. She steps in and executes. We have the general manager of our gym, and same thing. Like I have the vision for the gym. She helps me stay on track with that vision and executes. And then, I've got an insurance business as well, and my assistant executes a lot of the quoting and the detail oriented work, because we all know the whole place would burn down if I was in charge of that. So
Yeah.
I think that's cool that you've surrounded yourself with a team to execute that vision.
Well, you have to. Like, there's just too many hats for me to wear.
Yeah.
I can't do graphic design, shoot all the content. I did for a long time. I did all those things completely
Mm-hmm.
solo for 4 years.
Yeah. What was the motivation to move to St. Louis?
Got a divorce,
Okay.
and it was time to relocate.
Mm-hmm.
My time in Louisiana was done,
Yeah.
and St. Louis was the place to land. My current wife, Bonnie, was here, and I wanted to be closer to her.
Oh, okay. So she's from St. Louis then.
Nope. She had just moved here a couple years before that. So St.
Oh,
Louis
that's
just
funny.
happened to be a place we landed.
Yeah. Well, cool. How did you guys meet? Because she's pretty, or was pretty high up in the female powerlifting
Yep.
realm.
So I knew her just through years of that, mutual friends from that industry,
Mm-hmm.
from powerlifting and everything else, and then eventually sponsored her as an athlete by the brand. And then over time, after my wife and I had split, we had spent more and more time together. The universe had lined up. So multiple different companies were inviting us both to things to be part of.
Hmm.
So we just kept spending more time around each other. And at some point, we realized we enjoyed it.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool,
Nice.
man. Find mutual interests. And
Well, I mean, not only that, like I just dig her as a person, man. She's got her own fucking life.
mm-hmm.
She's got her own dreams. She's got her own ambition. She's not looking to fucking ride through mine.
Hmm.
I'm not looking for a character in my universe. I want to live with someone who's got their own.
Hmm. It's interesting. It's an interesting way to look at it, too.
Well, I'm not responsible for her fucking happiness.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true.
And neither is she for mine.
Mm-hmm.
I am.
I think a lot of people get caught up in that
Well, of course I do.
has to make them happy, and that's not it. It's not how it works.
Ways, dude. What a tremendous responsibility that you've decided to put on your spouse when it's in fact it's up to you.
Yeah.
It's your responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't interested in having a spouse that plays support role for me.
Right.
I want a spouse that has her own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else that's passionate.
That's a good point. So looking at Dope, that's your gym, correct?
Yeah, it's kind of Not Dead Yet headquarters.
Okay, gotcha. Do you guys have like a big membership base, or is it
we
kind
don't
of
have any members?
you don't have any members? Okay, just kind of open the doors for people in the
free.
And then you guys have something called Sunday service going on, which I've seen more and more. You told me about that, a month or two ago when we first talked. And tell us a little bit more about Sunday service and what that is.
So really, it's just us opening the doors every weekend. 10 to 2, we open the doors and it's an open gym. And it's not like we really have a workout planned. Some people train, other people sauna and cold plunge. Some people come up here and hang out in bean bags and have conversation.
That's cool.
But it's a community center, right? Like Sunday service is an opportunity to kind of start the week. It's not an end to the week. It's a way to start on a good foot on this day of refilling the things that make you feel your best, which are shared time with people you love, which is doing something hard for yourself that's nice, which is doing all the self-love things.
Yeah.
And so that's really what Sunday service has kind of evolved into. It's just a place to come catch a vibe, man. Enjoy the Sunday and actually down regulate and do it in a way that isn't sitting on the fucking couch watching sports and drinking beer.
Yeah. That's really cool. Do you drink at all?
Not really.
No. I feel like the older I get, not that I'm that old, I'm 32 now, but the older I get, the harder I train, the more it's like that drinking, it's hard to come back the next day and hit it just as hard, right?
Well, I mean,
There's a time and a place for it, but
as far as drugs are concerned, I think alcohol is a really shitty one.
yeah.
I'm really bummed out that that's been the chemical that as a culture we've decided is okay. I find it to be as, if not the most destructive, it's up on top of the list.
No doubt.
And to pretend that it's not that is a horseshit lie.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I just think if what I'm looking for from drinking, right, is somewhat of an altered state, a little bit of an altered consciousness, a little bit of my guard dropped down, all the reasons people drink, to lower inhibitions, to relax, to do any of these other things, which are valid and work.
Yeah.
I just think there's better chemicals I can use that don't also come with the depressive stance and also don't come with extra calories and inflammation and all the other bullshit.
Yeah. Well, there's something I learned about alcohol that really helped me diminish. First of all, wearing a Garmin watch, like it tells me how shitty my sleep is when I do drink, so that helps. But then the other thing for me that really got me off of drinking, I mean, I probably have, a couple drinks once a week, just like hanging out with my wife. I love having a drink with my wife and just chatting, right? But what got me off of that is the fact that it messes up your gut biome, and to where it tanks your production of serotonin. And I already have a problem being content in life, right? And that's a big struggle for me because I want to push forward all the time, but you have to learn how to be content in the present and enjoy the journey. That doesn't mean you don't want the reward that comes along after that journey, but being able to enjoy that journey and be present in the moment. And serotonin helps with that, right? So when you tank your production of it, yeah, it definitely takes that away.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, right? And we know better methods for getting those drugs.
Yeah.
The serotonin or dopamine, right? Like I can do sauna and cold plunge. Both are going to increase dopamine impact, serotonin, things like that, like supplements like New Mood or any of these other things. Like there's a lot of options, including quiet time or fucking being out in nature, doing any of the other things that actually produce those things instead of let me take a thing that mask it.
Yeah. Being out in nature, I think, is heavily discounted in life. Like the most refreshing time, we went up to the UP in Michigan a couple of weeks ago. Me, my wife and the kids, and we camped out on 12 Mile Beach up there in our camp.
Yeah, we went up that way and did it over the summer.
Oh, cool, man. Yeah, it's gorgeous up there. And our campsite just overlooked Lake Superior. It's absolutely incredible. And that actually, it's funny because I've seen your posts with your truck. You got a pretty badass truck.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tundra, right?
Yeah.
Fully decked out to go overlanding. I think that we're shooting for a rooftop tent next summer to be able to do that.
Yeah, I will sell it here shortly and start building a van.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you just not need the off-road capabilities that come with the Tundra?
Van's better. I don't need off-road capabilities in a daily driver that's on 38s with a winch. Like anywhere that's going to push that vehicle is a chance I ain't getting home.
Yeah.
I know myself better than it's not what I'm pursuing.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm not pursuing max effort off-road challenges.
Right.
I want to get away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I haven't.
Vans are cool.
My truck or the van is an escape pod, man. Like that's
Hmm.
the. I don't need any more than like, okay, I'm gonna fuck off, and then I just leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to have to spend 2 hours packing shit.
Yeah. Just hop in and go, right?
Yep.
That's cool. Speaking of adventures, I saw you guys went out to Burning Man.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
It was
What's that
great.
like?
It was great. This is my first year I've ever been.
Really?
I've wanted to go for a really long time. I think probably since I found out about Burning Man, I was interested. It is so wonderfully weird that I need to go.
Yeah.
It seems completely unreasonable, and I dig that aspect of it. It doesn't
Mm.
make sense that it exists. It's a giant pain in the ass, and no one makes any money. And I love it. I mean, tickets are hard to get.
Yeah.
It's a pain in the ass to do all of it.
Hmm.
To get out there to Black Rock's a pain in the ass. Making sure you've got enough stuff for a week is a pain in the ass. The getting in line to get tickets, which
Hmm.
you do online, they only sell so many, and there's 500,000 people trying to get tickets.
Yeah.
Getting tickets, getting a parking pass, finding people to stay with, blah 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 blah. It's a lot of parts.
Yeah.
Man, once you're there, it really is an escape from this reality.
Huh.
So there's no money to be exchanged at Burning Man. So once you buy your tickets and you get there, the only thing you can purchase in Black Rock City, which is like this 80,000 person city that gets made in the desert, and it's relatively well organized. Like you have streets and an address, and you can find your camp at all.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Huh.
I mean, it's not just chaos, right? So it's laid out, really organized in a city pattern, and it's big.
Hmm.
And it has everything. And the only thing you can buy is ice.
Really?
Outside of that, everything's a gift.
Huh.
It's not barter. It's not a trade. It's not transactional. If I have this, you can have it.
Hmm. That's
So
interesting.
that it creates a really interesting week.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
Also, you can't solve any of your problems by swiping your credit card anywhere.
Yeah. It's a new concept because in a capitalistic environment, that's.
No, man, I can have shit delivered today.
Yeah.
And I often do.
Yeah.
And yet for a week, I didn't need anything.
That's funny. That's cool.
So that was really rad. It was way more of like an art exhibit than I expected it to be. I really expected it to be more a music festival type thing like that. And while there is that, it's way more of this really odd art experiment of the city and of the people coming in, and then the art installations. I mean, so like if you open a camp, right, and you're going to go out there and have something ridiculous, like you don't charge people to use it, right? Like, so you ate the cost of bringing this out there, the setup, the everything for a week, simply to let people enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's it. And to talk about unreasonableness, right? Like we're talking about 90 minutes north of Reno in the middle of a dried lake bed. Like there's fuck all out here.
Yeah.
But there was a roller rink. Do you know how unreasonable it is to put together a roller skating rink in the middle of the desert?
Completely.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, that's not the weirdest place, but like that exists.
Yeah.
Like, that's so unreasonable to walk upon. It doesn't make any sense for everyone's like, is this profitable? Okay, we like fucking gives a shit. It's a celebration of a week of madness. Of lunacy and of giving and of love, and like society rules are totally different. Like seeing nude people, who cares?
Who
gives a shit?
That's
Congratulations,
fun.
they have skin the same way you do. No one gives a shit.
Yeah.
We're making a big deal about it.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of freedom to that week that I would prefer most of my life feel like.
Yeah. Well, that is an interesting concept. The world could be a different place with that mindset.
It could be, but in America, the main god we really love is capitalism and maximizing profits, and hence the conundrum we're currently in.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard to get away from that because you have to have it to live here.
Which part?
The capital, the money, right? You got to have the dollars and cents. You don't have to have a lot, But you do have to have something, right?
Yeah, but that, that's everywhere.
Hmm.
But America's idea of success just comes with more.
Right.
It's a complete abuse of abundance.
Hmm.
That's why we overeat and overdrink. Like, we don't handle abundance well in this country at all. I can't believe the fact that we still promote to the outside world like we have our shit together.
Yeah.
We're fucking fat and sick and miserable and commit suicide more than anyone else. We have more fucking locked up citizens than anywhere else. And to
Hmm.
sit there and stand like we're some asshole on top of the chart showing the rest of the world how they need to be, fuck that.
Hmm.
What, sick and fucking sad?
A lot to that.
Yeah,
There's a lot of good here too.
no doubt about it.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. I love both.
Right.
But at this point, it's not like we have to eat the other one for it.
Hmm.
All the good that's here isn't dependent on us having the other shitty side of the coin.
Yeah. Well, we have a hard time with moderation. And when you can't moderate something, it'll kill you.
Especially when we've convinced people that the only idea of success is more.
Hmm.
Same reason fucking people need to buy a bigger house to have 4 rooms to remind them that they're by themselves.
No, I know. Yeah. I don't understand that.
I just hate the narrative, man. I mean, look at our country, right? The fact that we have minage storage everywhere. You have so much shit that you can't even keep it at your house.
Yeah.
You have so much shit that you don't even need, like, that you don't even look at it. You have so much shit that you store it somewhere else and haven't been there in a year.
Hmm.
Like, we're a country full of fucking hoarders that think we die on this big pile of bullshit.
Doesn't go with you.
Nope.
No matter where
I'm
you
more experience based, man.
Yeah.
I'm not into things as much.
Hmm. I'm right there with you. Well, Matt, what would be one piece of advice you'd share with somebody? Um, I love Tim Ferriss's analogy of if you had one billboard to put up, share with everybody kind of what you're about and what your one piece of advice to share with everybody would be. What would that be?
Yeah, no one gets a vote, dude. Like, in your life, that's up for you to decide who gets a vote and who you give. And I look at giving a vote as, like, where does my energy get spent?
Mhm.
Right. And so if I'm giving some asshole in traffic who I've never met before, who drives a little funny, a bunch of my energy that morning by yelling, why am I giving that guy a vote?
Hmm.
Why have I given that guy the fucking access to my emotions?
Yeah.
And so who am I giving a vote in my life that gets to choose my actions other than me?
Hmm.
And I'm not interested in anyone making those decisions for me but me. And that reminder to myself that you don't have to live in any way you don't want to. If you want to sell all your things and move to somewhere else, you can.
Yeah.
The idea that things are impossible or you can't change or you can't do this is a horseshit lie. And all of that is built on so many ideas of what other people think you should be doing. And the
Yeah.
truth is, they're focused on worried about what other people think they should be doing. So most people are caught in this fucking loop where they aren't looking at themselves at all and they're constantly concerned with other people.
Yeah.
That creates everyone just looking outward.
Mhm.
If I decide that I don't give anyone else a vote, I get to walk freely through all that shit the best way I can. Because I don't need your permission and I don't need your approval.
Yeah.
I want to do with my life as I want to. And I'm never allowed to get in the way of your pursuit of greatness.
Yeah. Mhm. That's good advice. That's really good advice.
You got to be accountable to it. Ain't no one else going to build your fucking dreams, man.
Hmm. Got to go grab them. Where can people find you? Find out more about you.
Instagram's the easiest place. Matthew P. Vincent. Not Dead Yet brand, Not Dead Yet life. IndieY Life is our website with the coaching and mentorship. I'd love to chat and work with people. We've got a free Facebook group you can find through my link in bio on Instagram and join us there. We do some coaching calls there for free every week. We host retreats, and notdeadyet.com is the brand. And that's where all the apparel is. So check us out and make the most of that life in front of you, my friends.
Love it. Love it, man. Well, and I guess too, if you're in St. Louis, go hit them up on a Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Doors are open. Come hang out.
I love it, man. Well, I appreciate you being on today. It's a great conversation. And
Thank you, brother.
catch you next time.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. Have a good one.